Cardinals are considering the possibility of trading out a pick 4. Well, that's a top-tier pick. Obviously, the clear-cut favorite there was Marvin Harrison. How does that shake up the top 10? My guest is a draft analyst, Cole Thompson, writer for Fan Nation, and he has a weekly spot on Jake Asman. That'll be tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Let's roll.
Jets, Jets, let's go.
Jets wide receiver Wesley Walker. Wesley, how you doing today? ESPN writer, Mr. Rich Samini, Jets reporter for The Athletic, Mr. Zach Rosenblatt, Hall of Famer, and Jets legend, Mr. Marty Lyons.
Your host, Connor Law.
Here we are. Now, will the Cardinals trade out of 4? Daniel Jeremiah had the Jets trading up and drafting Marvin Harrison. Is that realistic? Well, we'll hear from an expert when it comes to all things NFL draft, Mr. Cole Thompson. Cole, how you doing this morning?
I'm not an expert, buddy. I'm just a fun dude that likes to come on these shows and do things with you. I'm well. So I can tell you right now that has been boiling over for the last several weeks. When we were in Indianapolis, Jake and I, we actually had heard a little bit about Arizona wanting to move back, and it's a prime destination. Unfortunately for the Jets, the one thing I will say is the draft compensation you would have to give up is probably going to be pretty substantial because the team that is probably looking to move up, they're not looking to move up to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. They're looking to draft a quarterback and probably the last guy that's remaining before someone else jumps them. And that team is more than likely the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, obviously we had you on the show for the first time right after Mobile when it was kind of the dog days of Jets football. Didn't really know we were in between of playoff football and a little early to talk draft if you really think about it because we're just coming out of Mobile. I mean, January, obviously everyone goes crazy over these February mock drafts, and I think mock drafts in general, like the ones that come out before the draft, they can be unrealistic sometimes. Like who predicted Will McDonald to the Jets last year? So you never know what's going to happen. But let's go into the chat. So when this person wrote this chat in, Cole, it was 6:44 your a.m. your time. So you're probably snoozing away, but your boy Alan.
Oh no!
I lost
no, God.
Good morning. Good morning, all. Cole F. Caden Proctor. Now, Cole, you can correct me here. Is Caden Proctor the tackle who transferred out of Bama to Iowa and then transferred back?
So Caden Proctor was the Alabama offensive lineman that said, "I'm going to go back to Iowa." He was committed to Iowa for like a year and a half, and literally right before the clock struck midnight, Nick Saban's like, "Hey, you want to go play for a national championship team and see what offense is all about?" And so he said, "Yeah, sure." So he goes down there, and then he transfers back, and then he realizes, "Oh, this is what Iowa offense is. I'm going to go back to Alabama." So I hope he tears his ACL day one at Tuscaloosa. No, Alan, no, we don't hope that. We don't hope that a 5-star special talent who is going to end up helping my Alabama Crimson Tide. I went to the University of Alabama. Is going to help us win a national title. We're not going to talk that way, Alan. That's bad juju because you want to know what happened when you say this. What's going to lead to is the Jets dealing with a bunch more problems, like, a torn Achilles from Aaron Rodgers on 3 snaps instead of 4.
Could we get the
if the game, buddy, you want to play this game, we'll play it right back at you. I'll go tit for tat. I cannot wait tomorrow for you to call into Jake. It's gonna be a fun time.
If the Jets go pass catcher at 10, could we get the Yale left tackle at 72? Is that Kieran something? I don't know how to. It starts with an A. I don't know how to say his last name.
Yeah, I gotta still do a little bit more study on him. If I was gonna be real, I'd probably go with the BYU tackle Kingsley Sumatre instead at 72.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, I look at the offensive line, and this is still a conversation that I know a lot of Jets fans don't want to have because of you got your blinders on right now, and it's cool. You get Tyron Smith, but that doesn't mean you don't have to draft an offensive lineman, especially when there's really good offensive linemen in this class that some years may have landed as the number 1 tackle. Talisi Fuanga is a guy that many people are talking about how he's continued to grow since the Senior Bowl. And he's somebody that I think is going to get into that top 10 conversation. And if you didn't have a guy such as Joe Alt, number one, he may be the number one tackle, or Olaf Fashanu. He's such a hyper athletic specimen, and he does such a good job with the agility and the bend to be able to win. Don't you want to have that guy for the next 4 or 5 years when you know that you're building past this season? Because yeah, it's great to say Joe Douglas swung big with the Mike Williams edition and with the Tyron Smith edition, but they're 1-year deals, just like Aaron Rodgers might be in the last year.
Yeah.
This is all about building for the future. The one thing that you want as an organization is to see continued growth. And so, yeah, you may say to yourself, Tyron Smith, but do you have him for a year? Do you have him for 4 years? What is the deal? Because that to me carries as much weight when it goes into the draft process as anything else. You're always trying to take that next step.
Yeah, I really agree, but I'm a fan here, and I say, honestly, I'm either right currently I'm either team trade back or go weapon at 10. The reason I like weapon at 10 is because right now we have Aaron Rodgers in a 2-3 year kind of window, 3 at best. And we need to plug a weapon in who can help him succeed. Yes, I agree, we can't stop building this offensive line. And yes, Tyron Smith is the best tackle we've had since DeBrickshaw Ferguson, but we still can't stop building this offensive line. I know these guys are going to get injured. I'd rather go out, draft a weapon at 10, get cheap depth in free agency. That's my opinion.
See, Connor, I hate to disagree with you, buddy.
My number one,
I do. I hate to disagree with you on this one. To me, it's there's so much talent at wide receiver in this class, and there's so much talent that you could bring in on day 2 where you might find yourself another guy like Puka Nacua. Like we see it every single year, a 4th round pick, a 3rd round pick, they end up being better than the 1st rounders. Do you ever say that about offensive linemen? I mean, you look at some of the best names in the NFL. Let's just look at the 2 top left tackles that are graded out by Pro Football Focus when it comes to pass protection. It's Trent Williams and it's Laramie Tunsil. Both of them were 1st round picks. Both of them were top 15 picks. And that's because of not only did they come from staple organizations that knew how to develop offensive linemen, but they also came from organizations that allowed them to blossom into what they were. And they realized they're special talents. So I just look at this year and I say to myself, what would be the thing that would stop me more? Not having a legit number 2 receiver or not having quality depth on my offensive line, backing up a guy such as Tyron Smith, who all the time seems to be in trouble and seems to be in the situation where you can't trust entirely he's going to stay healthy for a full 17-game season. And to me, when you have that type of concern, when you have those type of issues, not knowing if you're going to have a Tyron Smith for 17 games, priority is still offensive line, because the reason why your team wasn't great last year wasn't just because of bad quarterback play, is because the quarterback had no time to throw. And so you got to be able to have stability on the offensive line. So I get the Brock Bowers love. And I know you got a big guest coming on tomorrow, and I know that he is basically team Brock Bowers to gangrene. Like he's like literally on Twitter nonstop saying, go look at Zillow in New York. And it's like, that's great. But it doesn't matter. Like go back to a few years ago when it was the Joe Burrow comp, and they said, oh, Penei Sewell or Jamar Chase. And then it was the Penei Sewell, you got to be able to throw a pass downfield to T. Higgins. And then there was the Jamar Chase, and it was, oh, we don't have an offensive line. Here's Joe Burrow laying on the ground, and the ball's right next to him. But there's Jamar Chase down there, just like way down there. That might be the case for you this year. That really might.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying 100%. Cole, we got a caller on the line, and I'm not going to let you know his name until I bring him on screen, but here he is.
I know it was you. I knew it was. I'm not in the
Morning,
mood.
boys.
I'm not in the mood. I'm not. I'm not. So
no,
I'm gonna hang up.
It pains me to agree with Cole. It does. It pains me to agree because
I'm sorry. What? No. I need you to say that one more time. One more time.
It pains me. I swear to God, it is so painful to agree with Cole. I don't want to draft a receiver or a tight end in the 1st round. Okay, I don't. But I will tell you one thing. The thought of drafting a lineman at 10 who will be coming in as a backup scares me. That is why I want them to trade back. I would rather them go back
like trade
4 or
back.
5 spots, take a Fatanu or take a Mims or take a Fashanu and get themselves another top 100 pick. I don't want them to draft a receiver. I don't want them to draft a Brock Bowers in the first round. So that's where I agree with you. The idea that they're going to stay at 10 and draft a lineman who's going to be penciled in as a backup, I just don't know if the Jets will do that. I really don't.
Now, Alan, you're saying if Rome Odunze fell to the Jets at 10, you'd pass on him and trade back?
I would, yes. I want a lineman. I want a lineman in the first round. You can hold your head all you want, and I can't wait till I cannot wait till Caden breaks his leg week 1. I can't wait, okay? That's enough Iowa talk. But I want a lineman in round 1. I agree with Cole. It scares me. I don't ever want to agree with Cole.
Okay.
But I do agree with Cole on this one.
Why?
Why
I
what?
have to agree with Alan now. Why does Alan have to take my pick?
Oh my! That's been my take for a while. I
Oh
want a lineman.
Alan
in
had a
round
good
1.
take. Alan had a good take.
I know.
Oh crap! He had a good take.
It's
Because
scary. I
literally
know
I-
it comes.
no,
It
'cause
comes
literally-
once in a blue moon, but it happens. It does. It does.
Because literally, I was going to say, if you could trade out of 10 and go get Fontenot from Washington, that is actually what I would do. That is the move that I would do.
I really like him because he can play guard and tackle. And Cole, I need your help on this one. Is it Fatanu, Fontenot? I say it different every time.
Fontenot. It's
Hey, Connor, you really don't need
Fontenot.
help from Cole. Trust me.
No, but,
Here's,
I mean,
here's the trade suggestions.
listen, we need to find a shadow realm for Alan for your.
Oh,
show
I'm going there. Don't worry, it's fine.
I mean, you're going to hell. We know that. So.
Oh, I know that. My wife tells me that all the time.
I'm just glad you know that. Okay, I'm just
I
very
do.
happy.
Cincinnati at 18, Indianapolis at 15, Philly at 22. What is the likelihood we can trade down with them? And I'm looking at Indy at Cincy to move up to get a Bowers,
Yeah.
or I'm looking at Philly to go up and getting a Quinyon Mitchell. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you have to stay in your realm. I think if you're still trying to land either like a Tyler Guyton or you're trying to land a Troy Fontenot, Indy makes a lot of sense because Indy has been in on the Brock Bowers situation. That has been something that has been reported to me multiple times. It is somebody who I know has a lot of intrigue for the team. They would love to be able to add his versatility to the offense. That would make a lot of sense. Depending on the T. Higgins situation, yes, you did bring in a new tight end in Cincinnati, but you still, in my opinion, I think need a guy alongside potentially a Mike Gesicki long-term. It would make a lot of sense. Asking price is going to be the big thing. You know, to me, more than anything else, asking price is going to be what it comes down to because Douglas isn't going to want to move down just to say we got a 4th round pick 5 spots because we like the offensive line. So like the Texans deal, because I've been reporting on this for like the last several days. This year's draft, in my opinion, there really isn't that big of a drop off in talent between 25 and 42. And the Texans were picking at 23. And Minnesota next year, despite adding in a lot of free agents and a lot of quality free agents, Jonathan Grenard, Blake Cashman, Aaron Jones, they are going to have a young quarterback, whether it be Drake May, whether it be JJ McCarthy, whether it be whoever it is. That probably is going to be a top 40 pick next year. So they're actually adding in a top 40 pick in 2024. And to me, that's actual decent draft compensation. But for like the Jets, just saying, oh yeah, we really like a player who we would take at 10 if we took him at 15, that doesn't justify moving back for a 5th round pick. You need to have proper compensation with it. So you get an extra 3rd, you find a way to get like a 2025 3rd rounder and maybe a 2024 4th rounder. That's fine. If it's the Bengals, that's one where I would say it's a little more challenging, but yeah, if you're able to get something in return, if you're trading for Philly to 22, you got to get a 1st round pick in return, in my opinion.
What about with Philly? Because they do have 50 and 53. Is there any way the Jets can trade a 1, maybe give back a 3 and get both of the 2nd round picks?
Could they? Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't do that personally. I'd try to get a second round pick no matter what, but that's just me. But if I'm trading back to 22, I would want a first in 2025.
Okay.
I mean, if I'm moving back 12 spots, when Deshaun Watson was traded, when the Texans traded up to get Deshaun Watson from 24, they gave up 2 first-round picks, and that was the pick number 12. So it was 13 spots to move up. You'd be moving back 12 spots. I want a first-round pick in return. That's just the way I would view it. Because if I am risking losing out on multiple offensive linemen or multiple wide receivers, and also, I'm not saying that the Jets don't need to go ahead and target a wide receiver, but you need, number one, fair compensation. And number two, there is talent at wide receiver where at 22, I could feel comfortable taking a guy over an offensive lineman if the right offensive lineman's not there. But I need the right offensive lineman at pick number 10. That's the way I view it. And so 15 is kind of the same thing.
Well, I appreciate
you
it.
mentioned
And Connor,
Cole,
trust me. Connor, hell has frozen over. I will never agree with Cole again. I promise you, it will never happen.
Yes, sure.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks a lot.
Alan,
I appreciate it.
I mean, me and your wife both agree that you're going to hell.
Thank you.
We're in a good
Oh,
spot.
my wife knows that. That's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, me and your wife are great friends. I love her. I'm going to text you
Thanks a
after
lot.
this. Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Anytime, buddy.
All right, good
I
call.
knew you
We
were
have
gonna bring
another
him on,
caller
too.
on the line, Ricky. But before we
I knew you were going to bring him
before
on,
we
too.
get
You
to
said, oh, yeah, I'm not
next
going to tell you who it is. No, it's Alan. It's Alan.
So you mentioned trading back for fair compensation around 15. Obviously, a name that you mentioned was Troy Fatanu, however you say his,
That's how I say it.
name. But I don't know if you're familiar with this. Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with like the Stock Exchange podcast with Sycamore, Rogers, those two, and then Rogers put out a mock draft for NBC, and obviously Rogers is a Jet guy. He's on SNY. He does the pre-games and stuff, but he is all for, if the Jets really like Fatanu, taking him at 10 rather trading back.
Honestly, it's not the worst plan. It isn't. And in my opinion, with what you're looking for in terms of play style and what you need, that might be the best bet, because you go into camp with so much versatility on your line. Like you don't have to pigeonhole yourself to saying, okay, we're only going to play one person at this spot. We're only going to play one person at left tackle. It gives you flexibility. You can go into camp. Wouldn't you want to have that going into camp to be able to say to yourself, maybe I get 2 versions of Elijah Vera Tucker where I get flexibility at either guard or either tackle spot. And also on top of that, I can have a competition where if one person is improving in one spot, I'm going to let him take the outside and you shift inside. If they really covet that position flexibility and you feel like that somebody else might covet it too, take him at 10. The dumbest thing that people say all the time is that you overdraft somebody because of they don't fit where mock projections are. And then 10 years down the line, they become an 8-time Pro Bowler, a 3-time All-Pro, and nobody cares anymore because of they ended up living up to expectations. If you are so sold on a player's potential, who cares what the rest of society thinks? Do what's best for your franchise. And for Joe Douglas, you have to do what's best for you because if you're on the most thin ice as possible, if you fail this year, it's over. It's done. So if you feel like Troy Fatanu is the number 1 player on your board, the best fit for your team, regardless of where you want to play him, take him at 10. I don't have any problem with that at all whatsoever.
Yeah, I really like him. We got another caller on the line. Let's go over to Ricky. Ricky, how you doing this?
Oh crap! What up, Ricky?
Ricky, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going, Connor? Okay.
Good. How are you?
Cole, I have a question for you.
Sure.
What do you think of Renardo Green, the corner prospect?
From not Clemson.
Florida State.
I gotta do more study on him probably. I can't give you a good basis yet. I still am going through my entire process right now. I would say that if I haven't watched him, he's not a guy I would take probably in the top 75. So he's not a 3rd round pick, but I'm trying to remember watching some of his film this past year in the ACC. Florida State had one of the better defenses. They had arguably one of the best secondaries in the ACC this past season. It was a big reason why they were able to hold out and win games, especially against opponents late in the year when they lost Jordan Travis. It's a flyer kind of pick, in my opinion, probably right now. I got to give a little bit more research into him before I can give a full explanation.
Ricky, you there?
Ricky, you dead?
Ricky?
You there? You did.
All right, we'll go back to him when he's out of the. Let's see. All right. Until I see him unfreeze. When I see him unfreeze, we'll bring him back on. But Ricky actually made a really good point when he called in, I'd say last week. He said he thought Adonai Mitchell was a top receiver in this class. And I knew Adonai Mitchell was a name that was swirling around as a top receiver with him and Brian Thomas Jr. And then I watched some of those like all 22, just like I searched up literally Adonai Mitchell all 22 film study, and I found a bunch of videos on YouTube. And he's really, really nice. What do you think about him? And then obviously Xavier Worthy, Brian Thomas Jr., all these wide receivers.
So I was actually one of the first people to really be on Adonai Mitchell. I remember watching him at Georgia last year when he was barely playing. And I said, if you get him in an offense that's going to allow him to spread out and be more effective when it comes to his versatility as a route runner, his physicality downfield, there's a good shot he earns first round conversation. He did. And then you go to the combine and you see him run a 4.35 40. You see him post a 39-inch vertical. He looks exceptional when it comes to route running. He's great in physicality. He's got the big size. He's not in the category of the top 30. Like Rome Odunze, Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., they're alone. They're here, and then everyone else here. I have Adonai Mitchell as wide receiver 4. So in a trade down scenario, so like Alan was bringing up in conversation, if you were to trade down with, say, Philadelphia all the way to 22 and Adonai Mitchell was there, I'd have no problem taking him. Xavier Worthy, really fast player, really twitchy. He's a good route runner. The thing that really stands out about him that doesn't get enough credit, his ability to track footballs. There were multiple times this past year where Quinn Ewers overshot Worthy, and it was on a play that you thought was probably dead. And he had that second gust of wind to be able to go catch up to the football, bring it in, haul it in for a gain of 25. He doesn't drop a lot of passes. He is a fluid route runner. A lot of people say, oh, well, he's just got a lot of speed. He's very good when it comes to route running. He's crisp. He doesn't round out at the top. He does a very nice job of creating separation just because of his physicality. 165 is a very scary weight to play at, but the thing is that he played it this past year and was fine. He had I think over 1,000 yards, if I'm not mistaken. Kind of same situation. If you were to add him in opposite of Garrett Wilson and Mike Williams at pick 22, I'd have no problem with it. I can completely understand when you do that. Brian Thomas Jr., from a production standpoint, might be the best wide receiver that is not named Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, or Marvin Harrison Jr. The thing is with Brian Thomas, his route tree is so limited. Like he runs
yes,
curl, goes, and slants. And so if you're okay with that and you think that he can add more to his repertoire, then yeah, go ahead. He's got good hands. He's a very seamless route runner. He's very good after the catch. He does a great job in the open field, exceptional vision. But it's the route tree that worries me with him. If I were to be a betting man right now, he's going to go in the top 20. He just has too much talent. But you probably are going to view him the way that I view a guy like Adonai Mitchell and Brian Thomas, both 6'2", 6'3". One, I would say, has the ability to transcend games. The other one has the ability to be a big-time playmaker. And the big-time playmaker is Brian Thomas Jr., and the transcending of games is probably more so in Adonai Mitchell.
Yeah, I'll give you my top receivers personally in this draft. So I have 1, obviously Marvin Harrison Jr. Number 2, I have Rome Odunze ranked over Neighbors. I really, really like Odunze. Then 3, probably Neighbors. 4, probably Adonai Mitchell. 5, probably Brian Thomas Jr. And then my 6th is Keon Coleman from FSU. Really like Coleman, but I think Ricky's joined back, so let's bring him on.
Let's think Ricky is Ricky.
You there,
good?
Ricky?
Hello,
I
Ricky.
saw him moving backstage. As Jake would say, he is in a darkness retreat right now. So
Go ahead and
Ricky,
enjoy your sciatica,
attempt to
boy.
join back again. Right when you join back, Ricky, we'll go to. Is he here? He just joined back. Is he alive? There he is.
I'm alive.
Are you good now? Are you good? Okay.
I think so. We got free Wi-Fi provided by my landlord, so it goes in and out depending how many of us are using it. Awful. I'm working on correcting that permanently. But at any rate, before you lose me again, what I was going to ask is Renardo Green. Okay, I watched him in person a couple of times this year. Ricky Pearsall, he completely erased from that game. He went up against Malik Neighbors the first game of the year. I was there. I watched it. On 5 targets, Neighbors had 2 catches for 17 yards, no touchdowns. Renardo Green had a pass breakup and an interception in that game. What I worry about is some of these highly touted receivers. If they're getting shut down by a guy like that, who's not even considered a top corner prospect, how are they going to do when they face guys like Sauce when they get to the league? And I'll just kind of let you take it from there. I mean, maybe those games are outliers, but I'd like to hear your opinion.
Sometimes they really are just outliers, Ricky. I mean, I'm going to be completely real. Like Malik Neighbors, if you were to go back and you were to watch the game with Jaden Daniels too, people would probably say Daniels was not the quarterback that deserved to win the Heisman Trophy because of the way that he played and the way he wasn't able to come back in the second half and how sluggish they looked at times, especially on third down when they were playing from behind. But then you watch as they go up against quality competition in the SEC. And honestly, when Malik Neighbors was not open, you had Brian Thomas Jr. open, and then you saw what Jaden Daniels was able to do with his legs against similar, maybe not as good of defenses, because I did think Florida State was a top 10 defense this past year. But you watched against Ole Miss, they were able to throw it all over the yard against them. You watch against Alabama, he was able to run it all over the field. And Alabama this year was a top 15 defense. So it's sometimes it's an outlier. Ricky Pearsall is a guy who I think may be limited at the NFL level, but there's a role for him. There absolutely is a role for him. And that does not mean that he can't be a end-all decent playmaker. It may just be as a number 3 target. It may just be as a number 2 on third down. Those are going to be matchups to where you have those questions. And then there's always the outlier, man. I mean, there is. Like Tank Dell led college football last year, 2 years ago, in receiving yards and in receptions. And a lot of people were nervous about him because he's 5'8" and he weighed 152 pounds wet. So it's like they added a couple more pounds on him and he finished with 7 touchdowns and was great in the open field when he played with the Texans. Sometimes it just is you have those question marks that are unanswerable until you get them on the field. And again, the work of what they do between now until when they get to the NFL, that carries a lot of weight. And so I'm never gonna discount a player for one bad performance in a college game. Everyone's allowed to have a few mishaps here and there. It's how you respond and how you're able to regroup after a bad performance. And Malik Neighbors did that almost every single week. Jaden Daniels did that almost every single week. Ricky Pearsall, I wasn't high on him going into the year, but much like Spencer Rattler for me, whenever I talk about Spencer Rattler, I bring up how people look at the 5-7 record and they say, well, he didn't do enough to get the wins. And I'm saying they would have been a 2-10 team without Spencer Rattler. He won them 3 of those games. Ricky Pearsall won multiple games for Florida as Graham Mertz's number 1 wide receiver. So you're allowed to have one bad performance against a decent team to be able to come back later and have a better performance against another decent team.
Right on. I can. Hey, I'll tell you what. That FSU secondary only gave up 1 touchdown in the second half all year long, the whole entire year. They were good. Patrick Surtain Sr., as our DB coach, has done a wonderful job there. And you know what? You can't count on the committee to knock us out next year. There will be more teams. So we'll see you in the postseason next year, buddy.
Listen. If Boo Corrigan just said from the jump, we're going to penalize Florida State, nobody would be mad. The problem was, and the problem has always been, and I've been on record saying this, and I'll stay on record saying this, Boo Corrigan pulled the fast one on everyone in college football and said, we're not going to penalize them for not having Jordan Travis. only to penalize them for not having Jordan Travis, because they should have been in the playoff if we're looking at just 13-0 records. But Boo Corrigan decided to pull a trick on everybody. That's the way I've always said it.
I agree. Great. Thank you for joining us, Cole. Any final thoughts? One thing before we let Cole go. Tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, I will be joined by PFF's lead draft analyst, Trevor Sikkema, and I have another interview coming tomorrow that I will announce tomorrow morning. I'm going to keep it a secret till tomorrow morning. It's a big one, but Cole, thank you for joining us. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, guys, Connor's 12. And he's better than most people that do this for a living full time. So if you aren't subscribed to Connor's channel, if you are not bought into what Connor is producing, and if you are not a fan of what Connor is, you are wrong. You are awful people. You don't belong in Jets communities. You don't need to be watching the Jake Asman show. You need to be watching Connor Long, because Connor Long is not that long away from being a big-time star, and I'm very proud of him, and this is why I'm always wanting to come on his show, is because how hard he works. Jets fans, honestly, if you are able to trade back and get a guy like Troy Fontenot, that would be what I would do. If you like him at 10, take him at 10. The best part is for the Jets right now, you can have an open dialogue. It felt like a couple weeks ago, it had to be offensive tackle. It had to be offensive tackle. It had to be offensive tackle. Yes, he can probably ride a scooter without crashing. I can't. I cannot do that. I'm healed up though. I have a scar now, but whatever. You have options. You have options, and I think that's something that a lot of Jets fans are going to be able to talk about for the next month. So Connor, Jake, everybody that does Jets content, Aiden McCluskey, he's going to probably send me to the Shadow Realm tomorrow. You guys have stuff to talk about with the Jets. So that's the best part.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And like Cole said, if you're one of the 148 people watching on Twitter, head right over to that YouTube channel, click subscribe. We did give away a Wesley Walker signed photo when we hit 500 subscribers, and the lucky winner was Snowball. So, Cole, thank you for joining us. Everyone, thank you guys for watching. And as always, JETS, 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 Jets.